Hello and welcome. I think that's what Pete usually says to get these things started. I am, for this portion of it, your host, Jonathan Kinchin, and I am joined by one of my favorite Texas Breds of all time, Nicky the Boss Tammaro.
What's going on? Long time no talk in this setting.
I thought about you the other day. I saw some AI meme of like all of the Sopranos characters as babies. Did you see
Oh, it's
this?
great.
Yeah. I knew you'd enjoy that.
Steve Bick sent that to me. Multiple people sent it to me. Yeah, it was pretty good. They all looked good. That was I've enjoyed the 25th anniversary of. It seems like there's a 25th anniversary of one of the episodes each day. Yesterday was the other day was Full Leather Jacket, the one where Richie Aprile gave Tony the leather jacket that he turned around and gave to the maid's husband. Yeah, and yesterday was the one where Furio barges in and asks the two guys for the money and wants the extra 1,000, and he's like, "Hey, he's ripping us off for a G note." It's so great, and then he of course makes a derogatory comment about the two of them that wasn't on any of the replays and that isn't fit for a family type show.
Well, this is a family show, boss, and we're gonna get started in race 7 at Gulfstream on Saturday. We're gonna play the pick 5 here, and Cruz de Catalina is a horse that a New York bred horse. As a matter of fact, that I kind of started to kind of with my relationship with Lanes Inn was paying attention to him when Catalina Cruiser was still at Lanes Inn. How did you see this one getting started?
Yeah, the interesting thing about this race, Jonathan, is that probably the two best horses in terms of overall ability are both coming in off just horrendous efforts. And that's Cruz de Catalina and Big Pond. Big Pond was 11-10 in a comeback race that was really just supposed to be kind of a rubber stamp to get back to Stakes Company. And she didn't do any running at all. Really didn't have any excuse, got some pace in front of her, just never fired. So now they're adding, Bill Mott's adding blinkers. Is it going to be enough to maybe put her over the top? I think the worry here is there's not a lot of speed. That does seem like Cruz de Catalina can take advantage of. So I'm looking for an aggressive ride from Junior on the rail. I think the other horse that you have to show a certain amount of respect to is Brodery for Fernando Abreu and Paco, who comes in off a good runner-up finish in the race that Big Pond underperformed in. And then obviously the question mark is into Amore from Todd, who went over to Tampa for a couple of starts. Broke her maiden impressively on debut. Beautifully bred daughter of Alabama winner Embellish the Lace. But she's just really not been very fast in two prior starts and hasn't done much that's going to warrant the short price she'll end up going off.
Yeah, I saw it the same way. I felt like you needed to have Cruz de Catalina, who was a little disappointing last time, but had enough good back races to think that maybe getting back to the mile could help. Brodery, I agree with, and then Big Pond, probably the most talented, or has run one of the best races for Tim Yacht team, but hasn't really shown that for Bill Mott yet. Maybe that'll come this time around. Putting the blinkers on. Race 8. What do we got? An optional claimer here, of course. Yeah, I'm usually letting Pete drive this ship. An allowance race for 3-year-old fillies. This is a spot I thought you had to spread a little bit. I didn't have anything that I felt too comfortable leaning on. How about you, boss?
I think Rare Art is going to be a deserving, pretty strong favorite after the narrow miss in the Chelsea Flower. And this is a filly who showed some ability last year at Saratoga. I think everybody was sort of marveled at how difficult it was for Tony Dutrow to win a race. He had a number of horses run well, just had no racing luck. And then she finally put it all together at second asking, came back and ran in a couple of tough spots, including that Chelsea Flower. Opulent Restraint, who beat her that day, is going to run in the Florida Oaks on Saturday afternoon at Tampa, and we'll see how she performs there. But first, Lasix is a newly turned 3-year-old. Those are usually all the angles you want. I'll use the 2 Origami as well for Jack Sisterson, who made her North American debut. And I say her North American debut because she's a filly and she ran against males in the Cecil DeMille last year behind Clock Tower and Scipio. So she deserves another shot as a newly turned 3-year-old herself. First time Lasix as well. The concern I have, of course, in using those two is I'm giving up everything pace related. I have no speed amongst those two runners. And I have gotten to the point, Jonathan, where every Mark Cassie horse is almost an auto use. So I'll probably have to use the 3 Candy Quest in some capacity. I know she was a little underwhelming last time, but she's so spicy. Who won that race? Looks like a really legitimate stakes caliber turf sprinter. So I'll use Candy Quest probably as a backup.
Oh, smart Cassie. I don't know if it happened to you, but the mandatory payout day, not on a ticket. Mark Casse 7-horse for Eclipse that he won with.
The one going long, I mean, Jesus, that horse has won 3 races that I thought he made no sense in a row.
Yeah, I like Candy Quest. I have a kind of a little bit of a pet angle for sprinter stretch outs drawing the inside because they're tactical enough to get out of binds, but they're also going to likely save every inch of ground because they're going to be able to get to that position on the rail and hold that position, and that can sometimes kind of answer the question about whether or not they're going to handle any added distance.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, race 9, because I don't have this screen up, is a Florida bred, no Lasix, allowance race, going 7 furlongs on the dirt. Where are we going here?
Yeah, I mean, I think the wagering attention is really going to be captured for the most part by the bookends, although the far outside horse Emirates Affair doesn't really generally take that much money. The one Defended is in improving form for a dangerous barn, comes in with 3 wins in his last 4 starts, her last 4 starts, I should say, including a blowout win last out. I think that optional claiming 16, starter allowance 8, probably compares quite favorably to this Florida bred, one other than. And, the guys that you would expect, like Saffie Joseph Jr., or Barboza, to have horses at this level, they're not represented with anything that looks particularly tough. I guess Amy the Butcher is worthy of a little consideration off a break for Saffie, but she ran into a tough group of Florida breds her last start before getting sidelined. But all in all, she doesn't do much for me. So I'll use the inside and the outside here with Emirates Affair and the 1-7 and Defended.
Yeah, I wanted to use Singing Sandra a little bit. I'm not crazy about the fact that last race was the kind of the sore thumb that sticks out, that race, that figure. But maybe this horse is just improving, and definitely one I would use as more of a B type. But I would want to at least try to have on some sort of a ticket Singing Sandra. Race 10, the Hurricane Birdie going 6.5 on the dirt. Is this an ice cold single with the 1 Nick's Style?
I'm a fan of Nick Style. I like this horse. I thought that really she has one blemish in her career, and that was losing to one of the better female sprinters of 2024. So I do think that you have to be a little concerned. She's not quite been as good in Florida as she was towards the end of last year. With that said, I also don't love that it seems like they're kind of training and racing the speed out of her, which is a huge mistake. For her to come from almost 4 lengths off it last time out, or better at the pace call, 5 lengths out at the first call, that's insane, right? She's a really fast horse. So I don't like that trend, but boy, Jonathan, she looks like she's going to be awfully tough. I mean, it's hard to trust our Disaster to find a way to beat her, especially without Lasix. I guess Spirit Wind is the horse that you're most concerned with, maybe outside of Into Champagne. I believe Ian was training Into Champagne with Burnham Square. Or he was training Into Champagne with one of his horses that ran last week. I think it was Burnham Square. And Into Champagne was more than holding her own, which is no surprise given her past exploits. So she's a little dangerous, really more of a fringe player to me. I mean, I agree with you. I think Nick Style is clearly the horse to beat, and I could certainly find my way into using a little bit of backup on both Spirit Wind and Into Champagne.
Yeah, our Disaster, I agree. I mean, I root for ATM Racing and Rich Averill with this filly, but the problem is that she took a swing at Nick Style and it didn't work out well. If the real Nick Style shows up, I just think Nick Style is probably better. And then Spirit Wind, I just have like a no betting clause on her unless it's 6 furlongs or shorter. I just don't think she wants to go much longer. I think that's kind of her wall, her ceiling. Race 11, a mile and a 16th, starter optional claimer. Where are we going here, boss man, to get paid?
Boy, I mean, these are never easy. A lot of horses are coming out of this common race that was the nightcap on February 8th, and it makes sense that the condition would come up again a month later. And, the funny thing about that race, Jonathan, was that the 3rd and 4th place horses, who they were all essentially in a photo, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. 3rd and 4th place horses contested the pace. The 1-2 finishers came from nowhere. The winner came from absolutely nowhere. I mean, he was 8 lengths out at the top of the stretch, which at Gulfstream is usually a death sentence, and ended up just erupting and running by everybody in the stretch. So, the inclination for people like you and I that want to bet horses that maybe were a little up against it pace-wise is to use I'm Due and Big Boy Jack, who did all the heavy lifting in that race. They did all the work on the front end. Big Boy Jack looks like he's the main speed right back, breaking from the 3. So I'm going to go to those two. I did think that the 2 Il Alchemista got into a little bit of trouble down the stretch. Maybe he was in the middle of a good move himself. I'll probably use him, and I'm just going to try and keep it simple. I don't really want these Tampa horses. Dual Income's a horse that I guess I don't want to be beaten by, but I'm not all that thrilled with him, given that it felt like he really did get the setup last time and wasn't quite cutting into the margin. So I'll just try and use those speed horses and get one of them home.
Well, without our fearless leader, Nick, I'm not 100% sure where you're watching this. I'm not 100% sure what's coming up next. But I do know that we just talked about the Pick 5 at Gulfstream Park. And wherever you're listening to this, subscribe. If it's on your phone and it's audio, go to the little purple podcast app, find the In the Money podcast, and hit follow in the top right corner. I guess that would be that corner for you. And if you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button.